BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and it's finally time to start the production of fixing the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! GX characters. So let's get right into it. First off, is Alexis the worst treated girl in Yu-Gi-Oh? Okay, look, the top three are easily Roman, Yuamo, and Akiza as the best. And while there are valid things to criticize about all three of them, yeah, I take issues but got something to do over getting neglected for the majority of their show. Tei and Tori are more support main characters, despite being traditionally both usually being at the bottom, but at least you can debate about their focus on how they do well as said support. Between Alexis, Asuka, Yuzu, and Aoi, if you ask me who got done the dirtiest, it's really hard for me to say. Aoi got unfavorable matchups, but also lost out on scenarios that were tailor-made for her. Yuzu was used at least 4 out of 6 seasons until the writers decided not to use her for anything but a damsel, and Alexis just wasn't used that well across her 4 seasons. So the question becomes, well, if I can't determine who's the worst treated, why not just focus on fixing them all one at a time? Unfortunately, I said I was doing GX characters, and we already did Aoi from Vrains, Leo and Luna from 5Ds, and now Syrus from GX. So let's just continue where we left off and finish the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX characters, starting with Alexis. Now, I asked around, and there's 3 main issues with Alexis' character. One is that while she gets closure, it's through a duel and resolution to be a teacher that some feel came out of nowhere. 2, she never gets to duel someone serious and win after season 1. And the third one is that I talked about before. The story will create scenarios where it makes perfect sense for Alexis/Asuka to have duels for, but either never let her take them, or give all of those duels that made more sense for her to have to give to Jaden, for no reason other than he's the main protagonist. Like, before, I thought there was only like 2 duels I can think of. Now I can name up to 4 duels where she made way more sense to be the person dueling than having Jaden just do it all. So, if you made it this far into the video, type Alexis deserved better, and let's get started. Though I will say this as I begin. Alexis has a personality. I keep hearing Alexis doesn't have a personality, but like, y'all say that about any female character y'all don't like, or ignoring the issue in that they have their personality getting stripped away from them or less focused as the show goes along, except for Yuamu and Roman. But that's an argument for another day. Alexis is confident and strong-willed, but humble, caring, and doesn't see herself as better than anyone else. Hell, her original name, Asuka Tenjouin, means tomorrow's fragrance, and her original name, Alexis, means helper or defender. So clearly she's got personality, she just needs more to do in order to express that. Now for my second preamble. So, should there be an Alexis romance with Jaden or Chazz? Look, when it comes to GX, there's been this debate about Alexis having a romance ruining her characters over the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! In general just needs to do a better job with romance. But between Chazz having a crush on Alexis that goes nowhere except for comedy, and Alexis eventually developing a crush on Jaden that goes nowhere because she doesn't have the courage to tell him, alongside the fact that Jaden admits he's in love with YuBell, the question becomes, who should she end up with or have their romance be taken seriously? I considered going with Chazz, but another reviewer in Soul to Snack explored what would happen if Chazz and Alexis took it seriously. And people are going to argue Jaden couldn't date a spirit, though this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Stranger things have happened. But ultimately, I will say for this video, assume she ends up with Jaden because I don't want everything to be affected by the romance, though I'd argue my changes and fixes would help that. So, for Season 1, here's a question. What good is a queen with no challengers to dominate? Season 1's first half of GX really should have been a slam dunk in giving everyone a duel without Jaden. And yet the only characters to get that luxury are Bastion, Chumley, and technically Syrus if you don't consider the Paradox Brothers being something Jaden helps him out with, but it doesn't. Particularly with Alexis, she doesn't get a solo duel from her loss against Jaden in episode 3 until she duels Titan in episode 41. That is a 38 episode gap. What the actual hell? That's still better than Syrus not having a full on-screen duel between the Paradox Brothers and against Rand, but still. Hell, I'll give her 4 on-screen duels right now. You know what? For episode 3, instead of having her duel with Jaden, here's what we're gonna do. Have her duel Syrus instead, since Crowler tried to trick Jaden into breaking into their dorm, and since he's Zane's brother, she duels and beats him, but she realizes someone tricked them, and to play up on her being a teacher, well, at least in the future, have her give him some tips given he got some questions wrong in the class, and tells him he could be strong as his brother one day, or stronger. Meanwhile, in the background, have Jaden duel Misty and Jasmine at the same time, and that gets her interested in facing off against Jaden in the future. So, what, are we not gonna have Jaden fight Alexis in season 1? Well, save that thought for later, but that's at least one new duel for Alexis to have. Speaking of duels Alexis should have had, remember Mitsuru Ayano Koji, aka Harrington Rosewood, the tennis duelist? Yeah, he fell in love with Alexis and wants to date her and challenges Jaden to a duel to become her fiance, and she objects. I keep hearing some fans say to fix GX, this is one of the standalone duels to get rid of, but I disagree. Instead, why not give her the duel? She only watches it to see if Harrington is as good as Zane. Hell, in the original, after Jaden wins and asks her what does fiance mean, she calls him an idiot. So just have her duel, and if she wins, she gets to decide who her fiance is. And then later have Jaden ask her, if I dueled, would that have made me her fiance? And that leads her to laugh after he admits he doesn't know what it means. After all, she's the Queen of Obelisk Blue, so she gets to decide who her king's gonna be. In fact, we're gonna make that part of an 8-person tournament. Let's push Blair's introduction and Belowski's duel back, push Alexis versus Tennis Guy into that 8-person tournament, and then we're gonna make that the first part of the quarterfinals to decide who's gonna be the representative to fight North Academy. If that's going to be the first fight with her, next duel will be Jaden versus Dimitri to transplant what happened in the original. The next duel will be Cyrus versus the Duel Giants. And then the finals will be Bastion versus Chumley. And naturally, Alexis, Jaden, Cyrus, and Bastion advance to the next round. Then in the quarterfinals, we have a full fight between Alexis versus Jaden. The duels after the first 10 episodes in the YuGiOh series tend to be a little bit weaker. So because it's a tournament, this episode has more time for a dynamic back and front. So the duel should be a good one in place of what happened before. And even though she loses, making the semifinals would make a fun callback to Mai doing the same in Duelist Kingdom but without the forfeit, which gets into a lead-in to Jaden versus Bastion. Now let's talk about Season 1 Act 2. How the writers made the MC save my brother instead of me. Next up, can we finally talk about the 7 Stars arc, aka the Shadow Riders arc? And before I begin, the main problem with the 7 Stars is the structure. Nitroud is the first to go, but then Camula, 2 powerful threats back to back. But then we get Tanya, who's fine, but then Don Zalung and Abadaios are like jokes before we get to Titan, who has Atticus's memories and reveals Banner invited him to the dorm. We should have started with the least intimidating to most, going from Don Zalung and Abados to Tanya, and either Camila because she's a big threat, or Titan for the memories, then fight Nitroud second to last because he's a big threat, then Amnael since we know about the twists. So to focus, fine, let's have Alexis versus Titan and gets his memories back. Then we fix the biggest problem in Season 1. She doesn't fight her brother. Again, she spent all of Season 1 looking for him, and it's her journey she's going through. So why does Jaden get the duel? So, you know what? For this fix, Alexis has the fight of her life against Nitroud and barely manages to win and get the memories back inside of her brother. And for anyone asking, well, what is Jaden? Only going to fight Amnael and one of the weaker ones? Yes! He fought 5 out of the 7 originally. Give him 2, Alexis 2, Cyrus 1, Chazz 1, and Bastion 1. 7 did something similar to this, and when the quote-unquote kids Yu-Gi-Oh is beating you in character balance, you know there's a problem. No hate to 7s, we love it here. Hell, if you want to get Jaden involved, even though he's going to beat 2 big bads in a row, make the duel a 2v1. Nitroud would look more like a threat if Jaden and Alexis had to team up to beat him, and it'd be a big win since Nitroud's the only one of the 6 who didn't take a 1-episode duel to beat. It's not like they wouldn't work together in the tag duel eventually. Speaking of tag duels, there's one more duel in the 7 Stars we have to talk about. Amnael defeated Chazz and Alexis separately before facing Jaden in the final round to awaken the Sacred Beast. Want to make the big bad of Season 1 before Kagemaru arrives seem threatening? Show Amnael beating Chazz and Alexis at the same time on screen. Everyone says always better than Alexis because always had harder opponents to deal with, so this will be a proper challenge that the audience will get to see to challenge that. Alright, I usually try to make these videos around 10 minutes, but I feel like I've talked about everything that needed to be said. Anyway, thanks for watching. BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions and signing... Oh wait, this is only Season 1? It's been 9 minutes and I haven't even talked about Season 2 yet? Alright, let's continue talking about this moving into what you could debate is probably her weakest season. Season 2 or 3? Let's see. It's time for Season 2 when you're in a cult but have nothing to do. Enter Season 2, The Society of Light, where Alexis spends 46% of the season being brainwashed. Now, she does get smaller duels, you know, like back in Season 1, where she fought Pierre, Chazz, and Atticus in the season. Though it's undermined since Atticus didn't use his real deck, and at least she put up a fight against Chazz. But between episodes 70 through 90, she doesn't get a single duel on screen. Yes, I know half of that is because they went to Domino City, but semantics. Until she fights Maitre D in episode 90, we don't see her do anything. And the thing is that the Maitre D episode ain't even that bad. She takes over a duel for Jasmine and Mindy, and keep in mind, her opponent is a member of the Pro League, the 8th ranked, mind you. And she's able to take over for them and win despite only having 1,200 life points. If the Pro League opponents were set up earlier in the series as Aster's rivals, like the kids were afraid of, but were able to stand up to them in the tournament, that would have helped out a lot, but that's still pretty impressive. But in between those episodes, Chazz is really the only one between him, Alexis, and Bastion that gets a duel before they turn back. And well, we need to give Alexis something, so what do? Well, after episode 30, have Chazz and Alexis take on and beat Syrus and Tyranno, but be saved by Jaden and Tyranno's powers. Considering Hssleberry is able to avoid the White Light's powers, and Jaden can affect Destiny given his powers with the spirits and the gentle darkness, it'd give both Chazz and Alexis an established win, while forcing the other heroes to realize that they have to level up too. And for something special, because Alexis and Chazz's personality shift, let's talk about cults. See, the thing with cults is that to indoctrinate their victims, they consistently aim for their weaknesses and issues to get them to become more comfortable with their roles. And what made the Darksiders work is that their hatred, fears, and regrets were able to turn them into the envoys of revenge against the heroes. For Alexis especially, we need to see her normal persona and how the loss affected them internally, feeling like the power of the light would help her out. After all, they were worried about Duel Academy's reputation. Her best friend lost the Pro League duelist in Aster, who she was going to fight against. If we see her brainwashed attire and her normal attire, we at least get to see her in her thoughts, since one of the issues with brainwashed characters is that they lose their agency, and incite the audience loses sight of her own agency as a character. Also, given that we see Chazz take over the dorm, we could have Alexis take a nicer approach and only challenge those who think that they can beat her, not force any of them to join. Also, we could have a duel between Aster and his vigilante persona that ends in no result, see the difference in personality and in strength, which would later help him in order to side against Sartorius. As for who saves Alexis/frees her, I can definitely agree with the people who say that Chazz should have been the one to save her, because the show had him say that he was going to save her only to not do it. But someone already did that in their rewrite, and to make it a role reversal from the first season, just make it Atticus, but using his full deck and being serious. Like, everyone says Atticus doesn't have a win, and though he lost to Zane, even if he gets unconscious after the duel, he should go all out to save his sister. Plus, you have Red Eyes, which is usually associated with red and fire, going up against Alexis getting an upgrade with ice. It kind of feels like the siblings saving each other would make much more sense and be thematically fitting. Plus, it feels like after a member of the Society of Light loses, they're not necessarily in pain, they just go back to normal. So before Zane goes to fight Syrus, since Alexis and Zane are friends who stop interacting with each other after season 1 for some weird reason, have Alexis try to get Zane back to his senses. You know, thanks to the confidence that she got through the Society of Light, you could have this one end up in a draw so that Syrus could probably defeat Zane at the end. Yeah, she doesn't get a win at the end of the season, but at least with all these changes, she gets a lot more to do. So, season 3. If you're gonna die, you do it with grace. So, season 3 of GX is going to be pretty tricky because she dies to set up with Jaden's development alongside Chazz, Atticus, and Tyranno, and it's not like we could change that up too much. So I have an idea for that, but let's talk about the first half of season 3 because there's a duel that was practically gift wrapped for Alexis that she doesn't get at all. Want to know what that is? The duel with Professor Stein, aka Koji Sato. Now, for those of you who need a refresher, Sato, aka Stein in a dub, was a former Pro League duelist who became a teacher in Duel Academy and developed a grudge against Judai because of his position at the top of the school, despite having bad grades. So people started replicating him and sleeping and skipping throughout his classes. And then his breaking point was when Alexis eventually ditched his class, and given teaching was all that was left of his life, yeah, he's pretty pissed. So, the solution... Switch out Jaden and Alexis for this duel. Alexis is the one that duels him while Jaden's the one that gets stuck in the trapdoor. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, but if he blames Jaden, yeah, it makes sense for that to happen. Fair, but counter argument. He blames Jaden and thinks getting rid of him would allow students like her to focus again. So, if you want Alexis back and want to get rid of Jaden, wouldn't the better solution to be have Jaden enter the trapdoor and Alexis has to duel in order to save him? Because if Stein wins, then he's able to prove that he was right and no one should be skipping his classes, even someone like Alexis. And if he's wrong, as in Alexis beat him, she's able to prove that she's grown past the need for a teacher, and giving her choice to become a teacher in season 4, now she knows what to do and what steps to avoid so she doesn't end up as a teacher like Stein. Or, you know, Duel Academy doesn't end up with more bad teachers. Yeah, this would be the win that could help her roll in season 4. Makes sense if after the duel she starts considering becoming a teacher for real. Especially since in season 2 we saw her going out of her way to help people even when she was possessed by the Society of Light. And what are teachers supposed to be doing? Helping guide students for better roles in the future. Plus, come on, in the first half of the show, before they even go to the Dimension World, wasn't one of the complaints that people had with season 3 was that the only people that were getting duels were Jaden, Jesse, and the rest of the new characters? That's not hyperbole, by the way. Look back. Tyranno only dueled Jim because he was losing control. Syrus went to challenge Axel but got tied up and then was used by bait so Axel could fight Jaden instead. And Chazz got his butt kicked by Adrian. Bastion has an excuse since he's in another dimension. Zane wasn't around yet, but Syrus and Alexis have none. It could also be a big win for her, especially since Stein was basically willing to work for Viper, making him a general and a main antagonist for that first arc. And as we know, main characters in GX that aren't Jaden or Zane or Aster struggle to actually get a chance to fight relevant antagonists. As for the 2-dimensional hops, for the first one, yeah, the new kids were going out defeating some of the pawns that Marcel sent while they were playing defense. I guess you could switch the roles so that Syrus, Alexis, and Chazz are the ones doing that. But honestly, you could just give them wins against some of the dual ghouls. Especially since, according to the wikis, because it's been a while since I checked it for the episodes, they don't necessarily lose, but all they get is draw. So, like, actually winning some strong opponents, especially if most of those duelists are former characters that were established ahead of time or beforehand, that should be pretty strong. Even though they weren't part of the main characters, it would give them a sense of respect that they were able to take on such a large horde. And for when she dies, well, considering the rules are that if you lose a duel that you die, how about just have Braun also have monsters that fight her and the others in their own 1v1 duels? They're just not getting as much screen time as the one Jaden's having with Braun at the moment. So when Braun's monsters are destroyed by Jaden, his army's monsters get boosted attacks and abilities, which means that Alexis and the others are at an unfair disadvantage. You could still have her be affected by the sadness spell, but at least she could be trying to buy the others time or save some innocence throughout the duel before she gets killed off. I had an idea in that for those who died, Jaden would be able to resurrect their vessels and use him as his own generals, as the Supreme King, to remind him of the peoples that he lost, but that would just be adding way more duels to the show for the others to fight. So while that's something you could consider for a remake or reboot, let's just move on to Season 4. Season 4. Now we have to crown the queen with closure. For Season 4, well, she gets the team fights with Chancellor Shepard and Mrs. Dorothy, and then later Blair and Tyranno with Jaden, though I know some people don't like the way Jaden treated her in that duel. Fair enough. But I know people wanted her to have a solo fight. But like I said in the Syrus video, yeah, Tyranno, Syrus, Chazz, and Alexis especially all should have been able to fight their darkness and Truman clones and variants, targeting their weakness. Like, it's their final duels in the shows. Not only do they deserve a bit more respect than that, after all that they've been through against the Shadow Riders, the Society of Light, and especially the Dimensional World, they should have enough experience to overcome their insecurities and worries. Afterwards, okay, most people agree Atticus should have defeated Fujiwara instead of having Jaden and Jesse do it. So, you know what? Let's fix that. Have Alexis show up and help Atticus fight and defeat Fujiwara together. Between Jaden's Gentle Darkness, Jesse and Chazz's ability to see spirits, and Tyranno's dinosaur powers, Syrus and Alexis both should have enough experience to develop a resistance to darkness or the negative influences of darkness and free their friends, or give them the influence to fight back and win. And if Alexis and Atticus are able to beat Fujiwara, that should motivate the others to also conquer their own darkness if they can't do it because of how overwhelming the force is. See, the fun part about being a hobby anime fan is that with enough time and experience, I'm able to notice things I both like and dislike, but also be constructively critical in areas of improvement, while also giving praise for the set of things I think worked. And despite my criticisms, I do respect the fact that GX was made, and I definitely see the areas where they were trying to go for it, but I feel like they could have done a better job with the characters, especially Alexis. She does have a lot of fans to this day, like myself, which is proven by the fact that when she was being announced to return in Arc 5 alongside Edo, people were also excited, but also felt bad about how she was treated there too. Though people are quick to blame Shin Yoshida for why female characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Were poorly mistreated, until the transition to Bridge, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's, but at the time, he tended to avoid writing episodes with any female character that was in the main role for getting a duel. And while you could blame him for being the head showrunner for Zexal and Reigns and parts of GX and 5Ds, he was not the only writer working on Gallop or these shows that had this issue. Remember, he did not work on Arc 5 at all. The other writers are also equally to blame too. Looking back at GX, Junki Takumi wrote the episodes where Alexis won, Kenichi Yamashita wrote Aki and Sherry's last duel involving Crow, Atsushi Maekawa and Masazaki Tachihara wrote the episodes where Aoi either won or were treated with like respect even when she lost against like people like Bowman. Also, I forgot to mention that in the beginning of this video, but for some of y'all, Alexis was 15 to 17, Akiza didn't turn 18 until the time skip, Yuzu was 14, and Aoi 16. Some of y'all are low-key, especially some Yugi anime tubers, be outright admitting y'all be thirsty for fictional 14 to 17-year-olds. If you're talking about them if they're older or 18 or in your own fictional NSFW mentality as they're older and 18, I will give you a pass and hey, do whatever you want on your own time. But stop going on YouTube admitting that you guys like to goon to underage Yu-Gi-Oh! Girls. But yeah, I know some people are gonna be asking, hey, where's the Beyblade content? And trust me, there's quite a number of other videos I promised I needed to finish for the month, and you guys voted that you're okay with that. But thanks for watching, by the way. Thanks for watching all of this, the rest of my videos. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Like and subscribe. Wait for the next one. And BIP Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off. Oh, right. Jaden and Alexis as a couple. Just have her confess and just tell him that whenever he's ready to come back, she'll be ready to have that conversation. That's it. Bye.